Modern society is in the hands of electricity. Everything from cooling our homes with air conditioning, to making our food in electric ovens, to getting entertainment from our smartphones. Everything depends on electricity. But it's no easy feat to make this happen. Trillions of dollars goes into building, expanding, and maintaining the electricity grid that we rely on, and it all starts here. This is a power plant, a coal power plant to be more specific, and it makes up roughly 22% of the U.S. power grid, along with 38% from natural gas, 19% from nuclear energy, and 20% from renewable energy like solar or wind power. Almost all of this power is generated on demand, meaning that as you flick your light switch, somewhere, a generator starts generating just a little more energy to meet that new demand you just created. Some power comes from energy storage solutions like batteries or hydroelectric storage, but this is fractional compared to on-demand production. Because of the fact that electricity is almost exclusively generated on demand, it is important to be able to predict electricity demand so that you are able to accurately match energy demand with supply. Energy usage varies naturally throughout the day, week, month, and year, but it is still fairly predictable. This is what electricity usage tends to look like throughout the day. Power consumption tends to start picking up in the morning as people are waking up and getting ready for work, and it continues to rise throughout the day until around 7 to 8 p.m. when people start going to bed and consumption starts to decline during the night until it starts rising again the next morning. Power consumption also varies throughout the seasons, with power consumption being higher during the winter months in places far north in order to heat their homes, and consumption being higher in the summer in places further south in order to cool their homes. While utility companies have had decades to collect data on when electricity is being consumed, unforeseen things still happen, and the power grid needs to be able to adapt to unexpected variations in energy demand. Because of the fact that it's almost impossible to predict power demand accurately, it's important to be able to manage power production properly, and it starts with the baseload. Baseload consists of power plants that take long periods of time to start up and shut down. This includes things like coal and nuclear power plants. These can take over 12 hours to start up and shut down, which makes them unable to meet demand by themselves, as they cannot account for sudden spikes or drops in power demand. However, they are cheaper to operate compared to other forms of energy production, so they are used to provide a steady power output that electricity demand will never drop below. The next category is renewables. The problem with renewables is that you cannot control the amount of power that they produce. Solar energy makes power when the sun is out, and wind energy makes power when the wind is blowing. You can predict renewable energy output to some degree. Solar energy usually spikes at around noon when the sun is brightest, and wind conditions can be predicted to some extent. However, this isn't consistent enough to rely on, and it's only possible to predict the power output, not change it, which makes it unable to adapt to demand. This is where the last group comes in, peaking power plants. This group consists almost exclusively of natural gas power plants, and this is no coincidence. Most natural gas generators can adapt to demand extremely quickly, with some power plants being able to start up in under 10 minutes. And this makes natural gas power plants able to cover sudden spikes or drops in energy demand. Peaking power plants do, however, cost a lot more to operate compared to baseload power plants or renewable energy, and are therefore usually only run for a couple hours a day when demand is at its highest, as it would not make economical sense to run them around the clock. Once the energy is produced, it still needs to be transported to the consumer. However, power plants produce electricity at a low to medium voltage ranging from 2.3 to 30 kilovolts. However, this voltage is too low to be able to be transported over long distances because of resistance. The lower the voltage is, the more resistance there is, and more power is lost. Therefore, the electricity needs to get to a higher voltage, and this is done in a substation. At the substation, the voltage is stepped up to somewhere between 115 kilovolts and 765 kilovolts depending on the country and infrastructure. Most of the time, the electricity is also converted to alternating current in order to prevent further losses. However, high voltage direct current, or HVDC for short, may also be used. Once the electricity is high voltage, it can be transported vast distances with minimal losses. However, it is not possible to use this electricity because of the high voltage, which is why it is then required to step down the electricity. This happens in multiple stages due to the costly equipment needed to step down high voltage. The first stage is subtransmission, where high voltage is stepped down to 69 to 138 kilovolts. HVDC will also be converted to alternating current at this stage. While high voltage is used to transport energy from point to point, subtransmission serves an area which may be used to directly power larger industrial plants. But the voltage is still too high for most uses, so it is once again stepped down, this time at a distribution substation. Here, it is stepped down to a primary distribution voltage ranging from 2 to 35 kilovolts and typically serves a town or areas of a city. Finally, a distribution transformer, which usually covers individual neighborhoods, steps down the voltage one last time to either 120 or 240 volts depending on where you live, before the electricity is able to be used to power your home.